And welcome back to Law and Crime. As the Weinstein trial continues today here in New York, the prosecution rested its case just before noon. Our Jesse Weber was inside the courtroom all day today. He has been covering this trial through and through. We're going to go to him live right now outside of that Manhattan courtroom. Jesse, can we get the latest update?
Yeah, absolutely. We had an interesting morning. We saw the continuation of the testimony of Lauren Young, one of those Molineux witnesses who testified that Harvey Weinstein tricked her and trapped her into a hotel bathroom where he proceeded to touch himself and grope her. She was under cross-examination, continued cross-examination by Damon Chironis, and he really wanted to hit upon those prior inconsistent statements, you know, what she originally told the DA's office and what she testified to now, specifically about using all of her strength to get out of the bathroom, pounding on the door, where Gloria Allred, another woman who was in the hotel room, where she was positioned in the suite. What was Harvey Weinstein allegedly doing in the bathroom? All these mini points that showed that she wasn't entirely consistent with what happened. And also, the big point to make is that she was being fed information by law enforcement and the DA's office to create a better story against Harvey Weinstein. Well, that was what happened under cross, under redirect by the state. Megan Hast hit on a bunch of those points, and she said, well, first of all, that the defense is mischaracterizing her statements, that she is credible, and that she also allowed Lauren Young to articulate exactly what she meant by her words. And again, trying to say that, you know, law enforcement didn't feed you any information and that you came to the conclusion yourself about what hotel this allegedly happened at. So it was an interesting witness, and the last main big Molineux witness to testify. We heard from two more witnesses, a computer forensic analyst who studied the cell phones of Jessica Mann, one of the main complaining witnesses in this case. And we also heard from a friend of Lauren Young who testified to how upset she was, in his opinion, when she came home from this alleged attack at the hands of Harvey Weinstein. Now, before the prosecution rested their case, we heard once again from Tara Leigh Wolfe, who was another Molineux witness. She was called back because of an answer that she gave under cross-examination about allegedly having a conversation with a friend named Gloria. And the defense called her back to create the insinuation that that Tara Leigh Wolfe was coordinating the timeline of events with Gloria, and again, to make it sound better, for the state's case. Now, Tara Leigh Wolfe denied that insinuation. She was only up there for a few moments. And after Tara Leigh Wolfe, the prosecution officially rested their case. But then, you know what happens after the prosecution rests their case? The defense moved for a motion, judgment of acquittal, basically saying the prosecution hasn't met their case and it doesn't need to go to a jury. Specifically, they targeted the fact that Jessica Mann, one of the main complaining witnesses in this case, that she consented to everything with Harvey Weinstein, including going up to the hotel room that night and ultimately just laying there in bed for him. Remember, she says that Harvey Weinstein raped her in that hotel room. Prosecutor Alluzzi, in response, laid out her case once again, and unsurprisingly, the judge denied this motion for acquittal and also denied the motion for a mistrial as well. And now we are moving into the defense's case in chief, which should begin again at 2:15 p.m. with their witnesses.
All right, Jesse, thank you so much for that update. All right, we had to quickly switch off of Jesse Weber outside of that courthouse because Gloria Allred is now addressing the media. We're going to take you there live right now so we can listen in.
Near the Montage Hotel on the date which she testified to where the incident occurred. And so, you know, she did, ultimately the date was clear from emails. So I just think that was a waste of time by the defense trying to discredit her in terms of what she thought the date might have been, and ultimately she did provide the emails once she obtained them, clearly showing what the date was. I can't think of anything else that the defense did that would have any major impact on her testimony.
Now that the prosecution is settled, what do you make of the prosecution?
Well, the prosecution did rest its case, so now this afternoon the defense will call some witnesses Whether or not those witnesses are in fact helpful to the defense remains to be seen. Of course, the defense does not need to present any defense whatsoever. That's not their burden. They could just simply rest. However, they are choosing to put on some witnesses, and we'll see whether that's helpful to the defense or whether they will, in fact, regret putting on those defense witnesses, depending on what the prosecution may have that could potentially undermine the credibility of the witnesses that they seek to present. So we'll have to wait and see. Pardon me?
Do you think that they made a strong case?
Did the prosecution make a strong case? Well, I mean, they presented two persons they allege are victims. One of them is my client, Mimi Haley. They presented Annabella Shora, who's also my client. I think she testified in a way that hopefully would have a positive impact on the jury if they believe her. And of course, she's important on the issue of sexually predatory conduct. And then they also presented three Molineux witnesses. I represent one of them. That's Lauren Marie Young, who testified today and yesterday. So they would not have presented, they would not have charged Mr. Weinstein and proceeded to prosecute this case if they did not think that they had a reasonable probability of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But that's always in the jurors' hands, so we don't know what the jury will decide because they have not begun to deliberate because all the evidence is not in yet. So we'll have to wait and see. Just have to have respect for the jury. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Based on your experience in the courtroom, do you think the prosecution swayed the jury?
Have they done what?
Have they done the job of swaying the jury?
I mean, there's no way. I never predict what a jury will do because just never know what a jury will do. I'm proud of my clients and their courage. They really were and are role models in courage. It's very, very tough to undergo cross-examination by highly paid, experienced, small army of defense lawyers for a high-powered figure. And they did it. And I don't think in any of the three testimonies of these three witnesses that I represent that the defense made any major impact at all. But that'll be for the jury to decide. Obviously, the prosecution has to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the highest burden in the law. And the defense's only job is to present doubt, and more doubt, and hope, and attempt to persuade the jury that there's enough doubt that the prosecution can't carry its burden to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The judge did instruct the jury today, admonish them, remind them that as to the Molineux witnesses, the three that testified, their testimony is not to be considered on the issue of does the defendant have a propensity to do this. Their testimony is for the purpose of, for example, were the two alleged victims forced to do what they testified they did. And also on the issue of consent. Mr. Weinstein's position, at least for some witnesses, is that they consented. So if he had a pattern, a scheme, a plan, a modus operandi of doing this to women, he must have known they couldn't have consented or wouldn't have consented or didn't consent. I mean, this is a short version of what he said to the jury. And any other questions.
Gloria, your name came up a lot during cross-examination of these witnesses. It was made a point that you might be called as a witness yourself. Would you like to respond to all that?
Well, yes, as I said, the defense has seemed to feel very threatened by the fact that I represent 3 witnesses. And they have suggested to the witnesses that I file civil lawsuits and seek damages for individuals. That's all true. In fact, we just won, our law firm, a month or so ago, in December, $58,250,000 for one victim of sexual harassment. That's by a billionaire, Alki David. That was a jury verdict. But as all of the witnesses testified, I'm not retained for that purpose in this case. They didn't retain me for the purpose of filing a civil lawsuit. So I don't know where they thought they were going with that. Maybe they thought just the suggestion somehow to the jury through the question, which of course is not evidence, that because I also do civil lawsuits that, you know, they must be retaining me for that purpose. Of course, it makes no sense. I represented the family of Nicole Brown Simpson in the People versus O.J. Simpson case. I didn't file a lawsuit. I wasn't retained for the purpose of a lawsuit. I represented Amber Fry, key prosecution witness in the People versus Scott Peterson murder case, where he was charged with, you know, murdering his pregnant wife and his unborn fetus. Never filed a lawsuit for Amber Fry. But maybe if they just wave the red flag, perhaps they think they can get the jurors' attention and plant doubt. Hopefully they're not successful, since there is no evidence of that. So I'm aware they've attempted to serve a subpoena upon me. They decide they want to subpoena me and have me as a witness. As I say, that's good luck to them. They, you know, I'll accept service, put me on the witness stand, and get ready. And we'll see if that's what they want. It would be a very interesting way for them to end the case. Because you never know what I'm going to say. And neither do they. If they think it's going to be helpful to the defense, God bless them, is all I can say. Anyway, it didn't work in excluding me from the courtroom, which perhaps was their motive, I don't know. But if that's the way they want to spend Harvey Weinstein's money, putting Gloria Allred, the attorney for 3 important witnesses in this case, on as part of their defense case to try to impeach, if they're that desperate, as I say, I'll be here. I'll be ready. I'll be willing to do it, because everybody should if they're subpoenaed. Anything else? Okay. So I'll probably see you maybe at the final argument.
All right, so Gloria Allred outside of that downtown Manhattan courthouse addressing the cameras. You heard our Jesse Weber there asking her a question, taking many questions there from the media. We've got to take a break right now, but when we come back, we'll have plenty more coverage here live on Law&Crime.